Creek Mary's Blood, Chapter 48. It was the moon of dry dust blowing, Dane said. When the sun first showed over the rim of the world, it was the color of blood, and after full daylight the sky was yellow, clouds mixed with dust. Soon it will rain, I thought, and wash the sky until it was clean and blue. I remembered Grandmother Mary saying that. Above me I heard a hawk scream. I had to force myself to look up, and my heart stopped when I saw that it was blue-feathered, circling, lower and lower, screaming until it flapped its wings and with the speed of an arrow soared out of sight into the yellow clouds. Then I saw the shine of the plots and galloped the tired army pony across the sandy shadows until I could see the trading post. Above it floated not hawks, but black coron birds, still high up, watching whatever it was below. Sweet Medicine Woman's teepee was gone. Belcourt has burned it, I thought, as he threatened he would. But what has happened to Sweet Medicine Woman, to Amai and Susa? The pony rocked under me in its weariness. When we reached the creek behind the trading post, it wallowed in the water. I leaped into the stream and climbed the grassy bank, expecting to see ashes and charred lodge poles where the teepee had stood. Instead, there was only a circle of bare earth ridged by stones, no sign of violence. I sighed with relief, yet I knew the place was too quiet. Bibbs should be making noise in the smithy. Smoke should be drifting from the chimney above Gretha's kitchen. Familiar voices should be sounding everywhere. I walked around the solid log wall at the east end of the trading post, and as soon as I turned the corner, I saw 3 bluecoats lying motionless on the hard-packed earth around the entranceway, 2 of their backs. The nearest one faced in a pool of drying blood. I turned the body over with my foot. The faces there all looked alike to me, waxen now, but marked with animal coarseness, bearers of the Caucasian savagery that is akin to madness. The heavy door of the trading post stood ajar on one hinge, the wood battered by a pole that lay in front of it. A pair of boots, soleless facing me, blocked the narrow opening. I shoved the door fully open and looked down on what remained of Bibbs' face. His muscular body was clothed only in a pair of thin cotton pants and the black boots. In the trading room lay 2 more dead bluecoats. The arm of one of them was flung across the naked body of Griffa, lying spread-eagled on the floor, her eyes open and glassy in her pain-twisted face. Through the kitchen door I saw nothing but overturned furniture, and in only one bedroom did I find any signs of a struggle. In Maggie's room, a wash basin, a shattered mirror, and a blanket were on the floor. The rumpled covering on her bed was spotted with blood. The connecting door to Bibbs and Wewoka's quarters were wide open, and there I found 2 more dead. A bluecoat with a bowie knife driven its armpit to the hilt, and Wewoka's half-clothed body beneath his. I rolled the bluecoat to one side, hoping to find life left in Wewoka, but she was dead. A cluster of purple marks on her olive throat where her attacker had crushed the breath of life from her. When I closed the lids over Wewoka's violet eyes, I remembered her fears of the wild plains Indians when she first came to the trading post. All her dread-filled visions of hostile savages had come true, but in her case the savages were white men, not Indians. 5 of my family and kin of Fort Carothers were still missing, and I prayed that I would find them alive in the root cellar. I went to the kitchen, calling their names to reassure them with my voice. The heavy table that usually stood over the long entry boards lay on its side. I called again. Sweet Medicine, Amai, Susa, Maggie, young Apothel. I heard a whimpering then, like the soft wail of a lost cougar. I turned one of the boards, and there, in a beam of light, was Maggie's face, streaked with tears and dirt, looking up at me. I lifted her through the opening. She was clothed only in a blanket and clung tightly to me, sobbing. "Where are the others?" I asked. She tried to tell me, but "gone away" was all I could understand. Then I saw young Apothel pulling himself out of the root cellar, a great bloody welt on the top of his head, his eyes blanked from shock. It was a while before I could make them tell me of the terrors they had lived through in the dark night. The bluecoats had awakened them with shouts and curses and a loud banging at the entrance door. When the bluecoats began pounding at the door with the pole, Griffa called Bibbs, and the two of them stood with their guns ready. "Were Sweet Medicine Woman and the girls with you?" I asked. "No," Maggie said. "They were in the teepee. It was they who drove away the soldiers." When the door crashed in, Bibbs shot one of the bluecoats, but the others killed Bibbs where he stood, and they placed the muzzles of their rifles in his face and blew it apart. They knocked Griffa to the floor, tore off her night clothes, and raped her, several of them, while others raped Maggie in her sleeping room, and another met death when they went after Wewoka. Young Apothel tried to defend his mother, but was knocked senseless with the butt of a rifle. "Did you see Colonel Belcourt, the man who was here and threatened us?" I asked. Maggie shook her head. She was not sure. Through the wrecked entrance way she had seen the shadows of other soldiers on horses in the road. After Sweet Medicine Women and Amai and Susa began shooting at the soldiers in the road, the soldiers in the trading post ran out. "Amai told me that Susa killed 2 of them in the yard," Maggie said, "and then all the soldiers rode away very fast. Susa was hurt, and Sweet Medicine Woman and Amai brought her in here." "Where was she hurt?" I wanted to know. All I remember is Sweet Medicine Woman saying Susa had a wound in her ribs. I was crying over my mother and young Apothel. I thought he was dead, too. Amai helped me and helped bring young Apothel back to life, and then I remembered hearing horses, many horses, moving slow. We blew out the candles, and Sweet Medicine Woman went to look, and then she cried out that it was her people coming from the Ghost Timbers. The next I saw was Swift Eagle and Pleasant. Pleasant had a bloody rag around his head and was so weak Swift Eagle had to help him stand. They told us Little Cloud was dead, and Pleasant's wife Rising Fawn was dead, and Big Star was dead. They were carrying all the bodies north with them because they knew if they put them on scaffolds in the Ghost Timbers, the soldiers would come and steal the medicine bundles and other things belonging to the dead. Maggie also said Sweet Medicine Woman begged her and young Apothel to go with the Cheyennes to the north, but they would not go. They promised her they would hide in the root cellar and wait for the stagecoach. Sweet Medicine Woman would not leave without her teepee and a travois to carry Susa. Amai and Swift Eagle helped her dismantle the teepee and prepare 2 travois. She already had everything packed, and they all hurried away about the time the sun rose. As soon as they were gone, Maggie and young Apothel hid themselves in the root cellar where I found them. I knew that the eastbound stagecoach would soon be coming by, so I told them to get dressed in their best clothes and collect whatever things they needed to take with them. Then I took blankets from the beds and covered their bodies in the trading posts. After that, I dragged the 3 dead soldiers inside to the stage driver, would not see them lying in the yard and want me to explain why they were there. I went in the kitchen and took a biscuit tin off a high shelf. Griffa kept the trading post money in the tin box, and I was surprised at how much there was there in greenbacks and gold and silver coins. I put aside enough to pay their stagecoach fares to Westport, and then showed the rest in a leather pouch. As I was going where money was useless, I emptied my pockets of what coins I had and added them to the pouch. I gave the pouch to Maggie and told her not to turn loose of it until she could hand it over to her father. By the time the stagecoach had arrived, young Apothel was more in control of himself. He shook my hand and then put his arms around me and said he hoped we could all be together again after the war. Maggie fought to keep tears out of her eyes when she kissed me goodbye, but the stage driver was yelling at them to get aboard, and there was no time for tears. The last I saw of Maggie was her small hand waving at me from the coach window. As soon as the coach rolled away, I went back into the trading post. For a long time, 15 years I think, Fort Carruthers had been a kind of center, a home, a meeting place for children of Creek Mary's blood. Sweet Medicine Woman had always distrusted it as a symbol of white men's greed. "Ma-ka-ita, money, it is bad," she would say, and she would not have stayed one day of her own will anywhere near Fort Carruthers. Although she never spoke much about it, I knew that she sorrowed for me because I was afflicted with the white man sickness for possessions. Sweet Medicine Woman wanted nothing more than happiness for me and her children, clothing and food, a shelter that was cool in summer and warm in winter, and she knew that from Buffalo she would have she could have all these things. Why, any living being would want more than she could not comprehend. Goods were to be shared, not accumulated. I stood there in the trading post, thinking about her, grieving for her, because wherever she was, she grieved for Little Cloud, the son I had saved and then lost. I thought about grandmother, Kusa Amia, how she had fixed into her memory the words of the great Tecumseh, who tried and failed to unite all the tribes against the Uniga invaders. Behold what the white men have done to your people. They seize your land, they corrupt your women, they trample on the graves of your dead. They must be driven back whence they came upon a trail of blood. I went into a little room at the back of the trading post, the room where Pleasant always slept when he stayed at Fort Carruthers. He and I kept things there that we no longer used. His Spanish coat of mail, showing streaks of rust, lay on a shelf. I started to put it in my saddle pack, but left it, knowing he would have taken it if he wanted it. In a battered parfleche box, I found my old red breechcloth and a rawhide shirt. Beneath them was the horse bell that Sweet Medicine Girl gave me when I first parted from her at the end of the happy summer on the Hota, when we were young and unscarred by the time. I put it in my saddle pack. Among Pleasant's things I found a buckskin bag containing tallow and red and black pigments. I stripped off every shred of my white man's clothing and painted my face and arms and body for the first time since I'd gone on the horse raid against the Crows. Then I dressed in the breechcloth and rawhide shirt. I went out to the smithy and brought Bibbs jugs of coal oil inside and poured it over the blankets of the dead. I heaped my white man's clothing underneath thin wood of the trading counter, added straw and paper, soaked them with coal oil, and set them to blazing. Then I took my saddle pack and went outside mounted the army pony and started following the marks left by Sweet Medicine Woman's travois. They cut across the trail, heading north along with hundreds of hoofprints of Cheyenne ponies. At the top of the first rise in the land, I looked back. Smoke and flames lit skyward from each end of the Fort Carruthers, and for a long time after that, whenever I turned my face to the south, I could see a gray streamer of smoke against the yellow sky. To me, that smoke was a purge, burning away my past, and I felt like I was one with the people again. Not until the next day did I come to the burial place, a thicket of stunted trees high in dry sandhills. In their flight, the Cheyennes had not the time or means to build scaffolds or wrap wet buffalo skins around their dead. They hacked out enough space in the tree tops for 2 poles and whatever covering they had, blankets or robes lashed with rawhide stripes, placed so the feet of each dead person pointed toward the rising sun. From the coverings and possessions left beneath, I could name several of the dead who had been my friends and companions. Big Star was bound in his white buffalo robe, and beneath his tree was his lance and shield and his white horse, dead from arrow wounds. No other horses had been slain there, but I saw then a wooden horse hanging from the limb of a small thorny tree below a short blanket-wrapped body. It was a red and yellow rocking horse that Bibbs and Wowoka had made for Sousa as a birthday present, and the blanketed wrapped around the body was Sousa's, a red-striped Mackinaw that I brought her from Westport Landing. I wept then as I wept the day I first saw Grandmother Mary's grave. 20 summers Sousa had lived and already gone to the darkening land. Look for Kusa Amaya, your great-grandmother, I whispered to her. Do not turn your face to this earth again. Little Cloud and Rising Fawn had been placed in the nearby tree, but I had no more tears to shed. I could hear my grandmother's voice speaking the words of Tecumseh. Behold what the white men have done to your people. They must be driven back whence they came upon a trail of blood. Ah, those old times not good, John Bear in the Water said. We think we got it bad, fighting with Words, all time with Indian agent. You never told me what happened to your sons and daughters, Dane. He slid on his buttocks away from rising heat of the fireplace. Redbird woman rocked forward and eased herself from the chair. She went over to Dane's and put a hand on one of his shoulders. That is enough looking at road behind us, she said. Come show me where you want to put teepee for road ahead. Dane glanced at me, his closed lips crinkling in a smile. See, she gives me no peace. Look, I have this good cabin. What do I want with a teepee? She laughed. A Sanaki stays with a Sanaki. Wants to stay inside wooden house that shuts out sun. Sweet medicine woman and me. We work all our lives to make Dane and good Cheyenne. Don't you know teepee is easier to keep clean, warmer in winter, and cooler in summer, Dane interrupted mockingly. And all fresh air and sunshine. God, I can almost hear sweet medicine woman's voice saying those words. Come on, Redbird woman said, moving toward the door. You too, John Bear in the water. We find good place. Maybe put up some log poles today. Still smiling his thin smile, Dane beckoned me to come with them. Redbird woman led the way, lifting her skirts and showing her white deerskin boot moccasins as she stepped nimbly from stone to stone across the stream behind the cabin and climbed the embankment to a level place. Can see boot to north, Dundee to south, mountains to west, sky to east. Creek never flood this high up. Good place. She frowned at John Bear in the water. Where you put log poles? Wait, Dane protested. This is where the coyotes come to sing and talk to me every night. Plenty room for coyotes here too, she said. Won't have to sing so loud close to teepee. God, Dane muttered. John Bear in the water, go bring her the log poles.